Hi, I'm Leslie Coplin, social worker and prevention and outreach coordinator at YWCA Greenwich, speaking with licensed clinical social worker Robin Linder about practical parenting.
Hi, Leslie.
Robin, I've been thinking a lot these days about how each of us can really rise to this critically important moment in our history. We know that YWCA Greenwich is dedicated to eliminating racism, empowering women, and promoting peace, justice, freedom, and dignity for all people. And perhaps more importantly, that we really strive to incorporate that mission into everything we do, including how we teach children about how to treat others in their relationships.
Yeah, it's such a great mission. So we want to be sure we're putting action to these words and really reflecting on what it takes to accomplish this in our everyday lives.
Right. And we're all wondering right now, how do we do that? How can we move from being simply not racist to being anti racist in our thoughts and our actions and raising children who are too? And it seems like parents are just looking for the list, right? The right books to read. Just tell me what to do and I'll do it. But I'm also a firm believer in that idea of small changes, big results. So we can start with our interactions and the values that we're modeling for our children day in and day out. So I thought we could start today by talking about how our parenting can instill anti-racism in our children right now that will really help them be that change that we all want to see in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And it seems to me that in order to do that, we really need to cultivate empathy in our kids. It starts, no surprise, with us as parents. You just said it, right? What we model for our children in our language and our own behaviors. So I'm thinking this week, let's start by just talking about what empathy really means. And then next week, we can talk about how to teach this skill to our children.
Great. And let's acknowledge, first of all, that these are difficult conversations for all of us, but that doesn't mean that we should avoid having them. And it's important to put in the work to first educate ourselves as people and as parents, and then to use this time as a teachable moment. And empathy, we know, is a teachable skill. And it's really just about how we want to understand each other across divides in race, age, religion, gender identity, and sexual orientation.
That's right. And it's not about saying we don't see the differences in each other. It is about saying that we really value those differences, right? And that regardless of our differences, there is a critical way that we are all similar, and that is just in our basic humanity. Brene Brown, she's a highly regarded author, professor, lecturer, and she speaks extensively on empathy. And I'm going to give you her definition. I'm quoting here that empathy is the thing that enables us to acknowledge the underlying similarity of the human condition, which creates a foundation of mutual respect that reaches across racial lines.
Wow. Well, you can tell I love Brene Brown. And maybe I'm thinking it's time to update the golden rule, not just treat people the way you would want to be treated, but treat people the way they want to be treated, whether you really understand their experience or not. And that's so important for our kids to know as well, because I mean, you really can't walk a mile in someone else's shoes, but you can respect their journey and respect their experience.
Absolutely respect it. And I think just as important is to be curious about it.
Yes. And I think that often people get confused about the difference between sympathy and empathy. Can we maybe talk a little bit about that and why it matters?
You know what? It's such an important distinction to make. So I'm glad you're asking that. Let's start with sympathy, right? Sympathy is just a reaction to someone else's misfortune. So we would say something like, I'm so sorry for your loss, or that's so hard that you lost your job, right? What we're conveying with those words is sympathy.
Right. And sympathy isn't a bad feeling. It makes sense that we might feel badly for someone who's experiencing a loss or a hardship. Our intention might be actually to say something to make that person feel better, but we're also not really connecting with that person's pain or with their experience.
Exactly. And sympathy actually can disconnect us. It can convey the message that what the other person is experiencing is unfortunate. And we're sort of going like, Phew, not my problem, right? Empathy, though, it's the response that actually drives connection. It's the act of trying to put yourself in someone else's shoes and understand what they might be feeling or experiencing as if it were happening to you.
All right. And I know that my friend in my head, Brene Brown, also makes the point that a response like, I'm so sorry, rarely actually makes anything better. It's worth repeating here that what is really helpful is the essence of empathy, that sense of connection. I see you, I'm here for you, whatever it is you're feeling.
Absolutely. Because often when we're having, dealing with a difficult situation or facing a challenge, we're not looking for someone to give us a magic response that will fix everything. We might just be looking for someone who can help us feel like we're not alone in solving the problem, who will just even sit with us. We respond to that feeling of connection, and that is what empathy is all about.
Right. So we can listen, we can learn, and we can change. And our role as parents is a really important one here, too. We need to be able to have these difficult conversations with our kids and even be willing to be vulnerable here and make mistakes, too.
Yeah, making mistakes is part of the process. And honestly, it's something I wish I'd been more comfortable with when my kids were younger. I feel like now I'm really developing much more of a sense, an understanding than I ever had of how critical empathy can be, as a skill to teach our children to begin to heal some of the wounds of systemic racism. And since we've mentioned my BFF, Brene Brown, quite a bit, I'm going to go a step further. I'm going to encourage us all to check out. She has a short animated video on YouTube. If you just type in Brene Brown on empathy, it'll pop up, and it's a great illustration of what we've been talking about today.
I love that video. So Robin and I will be back again next time on Practical Parenting to continue talking about how to model and teach the skill of empathy to our children. And you can always write us at community.ed@ywcagreenwich.org. Until then, be safe, stay well, and thanks for watching.